So, my last video was called Questioning the Status Quo, and you or other people left some amazing comments on there, which I would like to further explore with you and through these videos. And so, I think it'd be cool if you made videos about your questions, kind of further expanding on these questions and asking questions that relate to it. And so that's what I'm going to do in this video. I'm going to expand upon something that I'm pondering and very curious about, but I'm also going to address some of the things that people said in the comments. And so I encourage you to make a video response if you want to this video. So the main thing I'm going to talk about in this video is the boundaries of what we call our sense of self. So if I said my name is Kevin, where does Kevin end and the world begin? So a lot of times you'd meet someone, they say, well, my name's John Smith, I'm 43 years old. And so going from that, you'd say, alright, so you were born at age 0, so when you were born into this world, they cut the umbilical cord, and that's day 1. Alright, so then John starts on day 1. But what was John Smith before he was born? Was he still John Smith when he was in the womb? Or was he still part of his mother? Would his mom say, hey, I'm Kathy, and this is not John Smith yet, he still has a few days to go. So I'm going to kind of trace back when we got this sense of self and sense of what I am, because we go around all day acting, and these actions stem from what we believe to be us, you know. So John Smith, he's in his mother's womb. Is he still John Smith, or is he just part of his mother? And before that, he was a sperm, perhaps. Was he John Smith when he was a sperm, or was that just part of his dad? And maybe he only became John Smith when his parents first mated. But even that event, you could trace that back to when his dad kind of had a twinkle in his eye. You know, is that where John Smith's real day 1 is? He's not 43 years old. He's 43 and 9 months old, because that was when his dad had the twinkle in his eye, you know. But then trace it back further, what about his dad? You know, where are these boundaries of where we end and the rest of the world begins? I think it's really fascinating to ponder that. And another example is, say, the color blue, alright, or the color purple. How do you define purple? Because you can only define it in relation to other colors. So if purple was the only color that existed, would we be able to define it? It's just really fascinating to me how things really can only be described in relation to other things. But our culture is so focused on objects. So we're like, this is an object, you know, I can draw a bubble around it and it would still be a bottle. But this bottle is made of sand and water and other elements that went into building it, and it will break down into those elements. So it's kind of just temporarily a bottle, and it's kind of this evolution. But our culture is so set on pinning things down and saying, this is what it is. I'm John Smith, I'm 43 years old, stop questioning me, you know. And so it's really fascinating to me to try and dissolve the boundaries which we believe in that separate us. And so another example is, say this lady named Susan is a musician and she plays guitar. She defines herself as a musician. So is her guitar part of her sense of being a musician? Is that part of her extended body, her guitar? But then you say, wait, maybe the guitar is making music, so maybe it's her sense of her as a musician the boundaries of it are wherever her music is played. But then you say, well, what if she has a CD? Is Susan in this CD? Is that still her? Or is this some sort of an extra component, you know? Because that's still her being a musician. And I just really like to question these things, and I feel like it really gets the mind churning to explore these things. And that's largely what Charles Eisenstein does in this book, The Ascent of Humanity. He traces civilization and the human sense of self. So right now, everyone in our culture generally has the same sense of self. We're like, hey, I'm John Smith, I'm 43 years old, I'm an individual. And but if you trace back the human sense of self way back into indigenous cultures and things like that, which Charles Eisenstein does in this book, which I'll post a link to. It's free online in text and audio. It's really great. But he traces it back and looks at indigenous cultures, and in a lot of these indigenous cultures, they don't have the same sense of self that we have. So if someone in my family is sick, then there's no way I can't be sick and my brother can be sick. It's like my family is sick, and there's not really a separation there. And in these indigenous cultures, it would be impossible to think that the forest could be sick, which you live in, but you're not sick, you know. So there wasn't this separation, this separate sense of self. I'm John Smith, 43 years old, I'm separate from everything around me. There was this amazing interconnection, and the boundaries weren't so definitive between people. So those are just some of my thoughts on the boundaries of the self, and how we constantly go around telling ourselves this story of, this is me, this is the edge of my body. But like every 7 years, all of our cells go away. So like if I go like this, part of me is falling to the ground. Is that still me on the ground, or has that left my bubble? You know, if I spit on the sidewalk, when did that spit stop being me and then become something else? So I encourage you to ponder these things and ponder everything, question everything, and explore all of your questions, because that's how we think outside the box. So please make a video response if you want to explore this question or any other questions, and have a Scooby-Doo happy day. Peace.